My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of The Abyss. And this review will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But when people talk about James Cameron movies, they talk about Titanic, they talk about the Avatar movies, they talk about Aliens, they talk about Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And rightfully so, those movies are some of the greatest movies ever made, but I do believe that The Abyss should be mentioned alongside them. So, let's begin by talking about the cast. And Ed Harris is a great actor. I love him in A History of Violence, in Gone Baby Gone, in National Treasure 2, in Mother, in The Walk, in Snowpiercer, but his performance here is his best work. He carries this movie so incredibly well, and I just thought he fully delivered in every way. There's one scene specifically where he's trying to bring Lindsay back to life, and you feel the desperation. You feel the heartbreak, and he truly impressed me here. But then we've got Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, who I also thought did a really fantastic job. She's likable, she's charming, but she still has a bit of an attitude, and I also thought she fully delivered. There's one scene where she's drowning, and she knows she has to, and you feel the terror that this character is experiencing, and it's a really effective moment. There's also one scene near the end where she thinks Bud is dead, and she sells you on that heartbreak. And there's also moments where she sees the aliens, and she sells you on the awe and wonder of that moment. And she's truly remarkable here. And then we've got Michael Biehn, who is so unhinged and scummy as the villain, but I thought he did a really good job. The rest of the cast is also quite good, but the real star of this movie is the man himself, James Cameron. If you know me, you know that I think that James Cameron is the greatest movie director ever, and just watching this movie, it's easy to see why. Like, he just elevates it in every sense, and this movie is just breathtaking on a visual level. Like, despite coming out in 1989, the CGI really holds up. The movie is also incredibly well shot, and I love the blue and purple lighting throughout. I thought the production design was really strong, and nobody does scenes of things flooding quite like James Cameron. It is obviously a passion of his, and he just fully delivers in that regard. But the aliens and their design is so unique and interesting, and I love how the movie teases you throughout. Like, the first time we see the aliens, it's through a reflection. Then Lindsay actually sees them. And then we get that scene with the water making its way throughout the rig. And then we get the big finale. And no joke, when Bud is holding the hand of the alien above the ship, my jaw was on the floor. I was just like, how does a movie that came out in 1989 look this good. Like, it is awe-inspiring stuff, and I was just left completely blown away. Nobody crafts movies quite like him. And I watched the special edition version, so the movie is almost 3 hours long, and it just flies by for me. It's a very well paced movie, and I love how the first half is the setup, and then the second half is just one thrilling set piece after another. Like, the villain locks everyone up, Bud has to swim underwater, there's a big fight, Bud is trying to stop the warhead from hitting the aliens, he gets rescued by Lindsay, Lindsay and Bud take on the villain, they win, then Bud has to get Lindsay out of the ship and back into the rig, and then Bud has to go down into the abyss to turn off the warhead, and then Bud gets rescued by the aliens. Like, it is just non-stop, and you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then the next scene is even better. Like, holy shit, just nobody does it like Jimmy C. And I do like how tense and thrilling this movie was throughout. The movie can also be very emotional at points. I love how sincere this movie is, and it's awe-inspiring stuff. Like, people always talk about their reaction when they saw the dinosaurs for the first time in Jurassic Park, and this movie has a couple moments like that. And, okay, so I watched the special edition version. I've never actually seen the theatrical version, but I love the ending. I know it's divisive, and I know it's heavy-handed, and I know it's hammy, but I do think this movie has a lot to say about human nature and how destructive we are as a species and how we have to change our ways. And the brilliant thing about that part of the movie is that those ideas exist within Bud's and Lindsay's relationship. You know, they loved each other, then things got messy, they hurt each other, but throughout the course of this movie, they reconnect. And it's what they really needed. And love needed to triumphant over all. And I feel like that is this movie's summary on the human race. We're destructive, we're messy, we sometimes like to hurt each other, but we gotta stop and we got to lean into the more positive sides of our nature. And there's something about that sincerity that just really works for me. And also how, like, you know, like, we live our lives and then we think we might die and we reconsider everything. We have regrets, we want to do things better, and then sometimes we're given a second chance. And I like how the movie does that with the tsunami. But I watched this movie with my brother, and he pointed out there's actually a scene of someone getting pantsed at the end of this movie, which is pretty funny. But look, it's heavy-handed. If you don't like the ending, I get it, but it works for me. It really does. And I also love that one scene early on where Bud throws his wedding ring in the toilet and then he goes back to get it. Like, it's just such a great human moment. And I also love the fact that his left hand is blue for so much of this movie. Good continuity there. But I love this movie. I do have a couple minor issues, and this doesn't really affect my enjoyment of the movie too much, but it's still worth mentioning. it can be a little slow to begin with, and I do think certain characters could have been set up better. And yeah, that's it. I still love everything else in this movie to such a tremendous degree. I think the movie is tense and thrilling. I think the movie is sincere. I think the movie is emotional. I think the movie is awe-inspiring. It's brilliantly put together. Like, the craftsmanship of this movie is just remarkable. It is such a well-directed movie by James Cameron. I thought the cast did a really great job, and I really don't think this movie gets the recognition it deserves, but it really is a phenomenal movie. So I'm giving The Abyss a 9 out of 10. One thing that's apparent to me while watching this movie is just how much of James Cameron's filmography is consistent. You know, this movie deals with water, there's flooding, there's bright, beautiful lights, there's aliens. I like it when directors are consistent with their filmography. But The Abyss, have you seen it? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin out.